Hey, thanks for joining us. My name is David Walker. I'm the director of the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center, and this is our webinar on tracking and controlling your credit. Let's go to the next slide there, Joe. A little bit about us. This is a free webinar, but that doesn't mean you don't get a little commercial. We are a nonprofit. We provide confidential, no-cost advisory and training services. There are SBDCs all over the country. There's nearly 1,000 of them. Our particular center serves Shasta and Trinity County, and our charter is to help small businesses in that region. We can help them with pretty much anything you can imagine. We are funded by your tax dollars, the Small Business Administration and the state of California in this case. And we have about, well, there's 12 or 13 clients. Go ahead and hit the slide there if you would. Oh, wait, we got to do the disclaimer first?
Well, the attorneys, all the attorneys snuck in first.
They're always interrupting. Okay. This is what happens when you get attorneys involved. Let this be a good business lesson for you. I got to read this. That's what they tell us to do. So I'm really quick at reading it. Here we go. The information provided in this webinar and any supplementary materials provided to registrants are intended for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional, financial, or legal advice. No registrant should act or fail to act on the basis of any material contained in this webinar without obtaining prior financial, legal, and/or other professional advice specific to their situation. The Northern California Small Business Development Center and its host, HSU Sponsored Programs Foundation, specifically disclaims any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use and application of any of the information presented in this webinar. Okay, now.
There we are.
All right, we have, there's about 12 or 14 people shown there that we have available for you. As a business advisor. We also have an additional 4 dozen or so throughout Northern California, all of which are subject matter experts on pretty much any type of business question you may ask, and we've got you covered. So it's a free service. Take advantage of it, and at the end of the presentation, there'll be a way for you to ask for services. And if you're not in Shasta or Trinity County of California, there is an SBDC near you. There's this new website called Google, you know. Anyway, you can find your SBDC simply by typing in SBDC and your location, and the one closest to you will come up. The person presenting this is Joe Rodola, and I'm going to turn it over to him. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, or in this case, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat, and I'll be watching the chat, and we'll we'll get the question to Joe. One more thing before I forget, we are recording this. It'll be on our YouTube channel. You will get a link to the recording, and we will be giving you copies of these slides by email. So I'm going to turn off my mic and my camera and turn it over to Joe.
Thanks, David. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. There's me, Joe Rodola, bald-headed guy, lead advisor here at Shasta-Cascade SBDC, and the credit guy. Old banker by trade, as you can see. I've been a small business owner for 11 years and worked in the last 9 years helping small businesses through various nonprofit organizations, including SBDC and SCED, Superior California Economic Development. So credit is my bag, so it's a good class for me to teach. By the end of the course, you'll be able to obtain and understand what a credit score is, obtain your credit report, which technically is a separate document, connect with an advisor if you need us, and of course, start repairing your credit if necessary. So it's a pretty important thing that people have the ability to check, verify, and then fix their credit if it's available to them. First steps. Before you fall behind, I always like to start with this. And even if you're not going to be behind, okay, the average American household holds 8 to 12 credit cards in their wallets and purses throughout the nation currently. That includes your store cards, Visas, MasterCards, American Express, and Discovers, gas cards, okay? Card. Everybody's got a card, right? So the best thing to do is keep a nice list, make up a nice Excel spreadsheet, make a list of the loans and credit card companies. On this list, you can do it on a piece of paper. I did it for years before we had these fancy computers, right? Make a list, maybe put a partial account number so you know which one you're talking about. Put the limit that you have on the card, what you currently owe, and what the minimum payment is on that tracking sheet, okay? That way, in case something happens, and let's face it, anything can happen nowadays, right? I hate to be a doom and gloomer, but we've got inflation, we've got gas prices, we've got COVID, we got monkeypox. Who knows what's going to be the next one? Something emergency, earthquake, heaven forbid, California, right? Emergency happens. This is an extra way to be prepared to give yourself some help, okay? Make sure you have your statements up to date. If you're online, check them monthly. Don't let it pass that you do not check your statements with these credit card companies. Errors occur constantly, okay? Constantly. You forgot you signed up for an automatic renewal. You didn't want it. You wanted to cancel it before. That happens a lot. They're hoping you forget, right? Those subscriptions are what keep a lot of these businesses going. So check them at least monthly. I like to do it every 2 weeks, just for ducks, okay? Kicks and giggles, as they say. If you're in a situation where you've been fired, been laid off, getting a divorce, had an accident, you're out of work, you're now on unemployment for some reason, or you're on disability, all financial institutions, I don't know of one that doesn't have a disaster relief or hardship department. It's not listed on your statement. It's under customer service. You'll call them and you'll ask for their hardship or disaster department. And what that does is gives you the ability to talk to someone who can actually make a difference. Maybe lower your payment for a month or two, maybe lower the interest rate. There's all sorts of things they can do on the side that normal, run-of-the-mill rest of us can't get. Tell them your situation. You can ask them to defer payments. I know on my car loan with one of the local credit unions here in town, they even give us a Christmas skip a payment if you want, for extra cash during the Christmas holiday. What a marketing ploy, huh? Pretty cool. So, there's all sorts of ways to defer payments if you're in an emergency situation. Figure out which accounts give you the best relief. In other words, if you have a $200 balance card and your payment's $10 a month, probably not the one you want to call for help. But if you owe $5,000 on a credit card with a minimum payment of $100, $150, that's the one to call for help if you're in a disaster scenario, right? Because if you're able to get that payment lowered, or if you're able to get that payment deferred, that'll make a big difference in maybe putting some gas in the car, food on the table. They will charge interest. They're not going to lose a dime, so don't worry about them, okay? It's a short-term fix, not long, okay? If you have an automatic payment, make sure to check your online app with the bank or financial institution to remove the auto pay. Otherwise, they'll just take it out of your bank account, boom, on the due date. And make sure to change your budget that you use for tracking your income and expense when you start the payments up again. So this is kind of a nice step for disaster protection and setup. So now let's understand the score. Scoring is part of your credit history, okay? Your credit journey. Credit scoring started back late 60s, originally, in some form, about, 8, 9 years after credit cards were invented, okay? Before the 50s, early 50s, you had store accounts on paper, right? You went to the local grocery store, you might have an account with them, and they had it on a card. Sometimes they'd give you, you pay me on next week when you get your paycheck. Here's the milk and eggs for today. That was the way it started. Then Visa came about. Bank of America set up with their Bank Americard back in the day. And now we know what happened since then, right? So credit scoring started way back then, but until computers came out in the mid to late 70s, okay? And we started to get these on our desks throughout the banking industry, and we started getting them at work. Then the credit scoring went up as far as researching credit scores. Before then, it was real hard. We just pull a credit report, fine, we don't have to worry about it. But now it's turned into scores because it's the easiest to get. Scores are quick. You can get a score, okay? So how can you get a score? Many credit card companies in America today, through the credit card itself, will allow you to pull a score for free monthly as part of their service. So you can do it that way, okay? If you have a credit card protection company, if you have like Legal Shield, or one of those companies that does a credit protection, they may allow you to get a score from them. Also, there's a company called creditkarma.com, as you can see here, a Credit Karma with a K, K-A-R-M-A, and you can get a free score from them. It is not the FICO score that most banks and financial institutions use, FICO, okay? But it's a representation of the 3 credit bureaus in a valid number that's close. Kind of reminds me of Zillow. If you ever tried to check the value of your home on Zillow, that's not an appraised value, that's an approximate, right? Credit Karma's same thing. It's not exact, it's an approximate. Gives you an idea if it's going up or down, and that's what people need to care about. Okay, hopefully they're going up and not down. So how is the score set up? Here it is. The credit scoring model, FICO, as I just mentioned, Fair Isaac Credit. I'm not sure if that's organization, something, FICO, but I know Fair Isaac's the first 2 words. The scoring model is set up based on 30% of the score is based on what you owe. So how much you owe on whatever it is, car, how much you owe on the credit cards to limit, personal loans, etc. 10% of the score is how new the credit is. So in other words, it's a lot more difficult for a 19, 20-year-old to get an 800, 850 score, which is 850 is the highest, than it is for a person that's had credit for 40 years. See, so it's set up that way on that percentage of new credit. So 15% length of credit history. Okay, again, longer you've had it, better you're off you are. 10% types of credit in use. If you use check cashing facilities, for instance, to get money at a high interest rate because of situations, that can be a negative, okay? And 35% of the credit score is based on how well you make your payments on time. So technically, how much you owe and the payment history is 65% of your score. So those two have a lot of weight when it comes to the score. So what is score? Here it is, basically. Credit scoring model, especially the FICO, is from 300 to 850 points, okay? And I kind of put it in the area of a golf game. So 300 to 629, I like to call it the subpar range, varying degrees. I've never seen a 300. So, not easy to get a 300 that low. I've seen 500s quite often, especially if a person filed bankruptcy. The person got a divorce and people didn't make payments for 3-4 months because they were waiting for the attorneys to battle it out, right? So I've seen them in the 500s. 300 is very difficult to get. And it's very difficult to borrow funds in the 300 to 629 area. It's going to be difficult. Okay. Par is 630 to 689. So that's where a lot of people fall. The closer to the 689, the easier it is for you to get funds and to get cheaper rates. Okay. Cheaper rates, cheaper fees. Above par, 690 to 719, That's what the banks love. We start loving you at that point because that means you're very, a very solid credit user, a low risk. That's what you want to be, low risk. Make your payments on time, had a good long credit history, and a birdie, or you're really good, 720 to 850. I've never seen an 850 personally. I've seen some 820s, 810s, 815s, 825. Doesn't matter. Anything above 720, you're going to get probably the best rate, the best terms offered by the company because you've got a fabulous score. Fabulous score. Okay. Here's a kind of idea how the range works. Okay, so on the scoring piece, obviously don't pay for your scores. There's a ton of free options. Ton of free options, including Credit Karma. Okay. Told you and taught you about the actual score factors, which is good. And told you about good and bad. Okay, how good and bad. That just means it'll be more difficult to borrow. That's what it's about. Okay. In the business end, personal credit matters, not just business credit. So if you have an LLC or a corporation that may have its own credit history because it's got its own tax ID number, all banks and financial institutions are going to want to know the owner's credit and credit score. You can't hide personally, see? So it's always best to keep your score in the top shape as possible because they're going to check it. They are going to check it. Okay, so do we have any questions at this point? Nope. Looks like David. If there's any questions at this point, please let me know. We'll go on to the second phase. If not, all right. Credit report. Credit report basically is a little different. Okay. If you go back to 1971, when I started in the banking industry, that was a long time ago. We didn't have computers, didn't have cell phones. Okay. Even the banks didn't have them. Okay. We were using adding machines. They were intricate adding machines, but they were adding machines. There was a machine that would code your check at the bottom of the check that you brought in that morning, and would put a magnetic strip as to how much the dollar amount of the check was for. Isn't that something? Did it all manually. We had people actually doing this, okay? In those days, we didn't use a score because the scores were harder to find. We used the credit report itself. In those days, there was only one. There was TRW. So TRW was the only agency around back in the 70s, okay? Now there's 3 agencies. So, and you can get a credit report for free. So let's go ahead and talk about how you can pull reports. And here it is. Annualcreditreport.com. This particular website was started, gosh, it's got to be 20 years, maybe plus or minus. Time flies, we're having fun. 20 years ago, this website, that's obviously grown and become easier to operate because of the computer situation. But annualcreditreport.com was invented because the federal government said there were too many mistakes on credit reports in the country. Okay. We should be able to see for free what's on it. Okay. And this annualcreditreport.com will let you see each of the possible reports, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, once per calendar year per Social Security number. Cool, huh? So my wife and I, yesterday was our anniversary. We're married 42 years. Pretty cool. We pull ours in a like a rolling fashion. Might pull mine in January for Equifax. My wife's in March, and then we go to June, July. We'll pull Experian, okay, on ourselves, and then we'll pull TransUnion in the fall, October. So that way we're rotating through to see what's on each of the reports on an ongoing basis at different times of the year. Because let's face it, identity theft can happen at any time. And unfortunately, it often does. Okay, so you need to know as quickly as possible. So here's how to do it. You go to annualcreditreport.com. You hit the request your free credit report there, bottom left corner of the front page. Takes you to this step right here. You will have to have personal information you're going to have to give here. This is a ultra safe website, okay? Because you have to put your social security number in here. You're going to have, or tax ID. You're going to have to do that. So this is a well-respected site, okay, annualcreditreport.com. You request your credit reports here. You can have one or all three, two, whatever you want to do. Like I say, we rotate ours in our family. Okay, you'll need a name, date of birth, social security number, a full legal name, a current address, where you live, previous address, if current address less than 2 years. Select the reports you want, okay? 1, 2, or all three. I like to pull Experian. If I was going to only pull one, Experian normally has the most stuff on it, because believe it or not, they all three will normally not match. Experian is the old TRW that I mentioned earlier. So Experian took over TRW way back when. Equifax it was really kind of invented for the auto dealerships, automobile sales. TransUnion was invented mostly for real estate. So what happens is sometimes they don't cross report. It's possible. It's possible. So normally you'll have 3 credit scores and 3 different reports. Sad, but true. Okay. So that's why we check them all. Then verify it's you. You'll answer some questions like, do you recognize this mortgage payment? And it'll have it listed there. What's your zip code you live in? They'll do some little verification questions to make sure you're you. Okay. And then you get the report. Okay. The best thing to do with a report is to, when it pops up, go ahead and save it to your desktop. Okay. Save it to your computer as a PDF file. It's called a PDF. Okay. It's easily printable after you save it to your computer, and it'll stay there. It'll stay there. I formulated a file that I put them in every year as I pull them. So I have a credit report file on my computer, and that's where I store them. If you use cloud, you can do the cloud. I'm not a cloud guy yet, just dabbling. And this will have the list of each of your creditors' information. It'll have your limits, the company identified, the limit of your card, the balance, current balance of your card, minimum monthly payments. And the thing that the bankers, of course, mostly want to look at is, have you made your payments on time? They have 30, 60, 90, and 120-day late. Either you're on the right side or it's at the bottom of each of the creditors. It'll tell you if you've made your payments on time or not. So we can go back and we can actually find out, if you had a divorce, say in 2018, and you missed payments, this report will show those missed payments back in 2018 for those cards. So it's kind of cool. It's interesting how it worked, but it's easy. So print your report, save it as a PDF. You can also print a hard copy. You can always do that. Okay. Sometimes these reports are long. If I had to print mine, I'm almost 70 years old. I guarantee you it's probably 25, 30 pages. So we just save it as PDF. Don't print it unless you have to, right? And again, the sample report lists all the items, right? All the names in which you've gotten credit, because I'm Joseph Rodola technically, but I go by Joe. So some credit I have is Joe, some credit I have is Joseph. My middle initials S. So some of mine's Joseph S. Rodola, you know. So every time you get, if you're married and divorced, you have maiden names, you'll have it under all those names too. Addresses you lived at, jobs you've held, all listed. Okay. And like I say, each creditor, if you have a Kohl's card will be there. If you have a Macy's will be there. Listed. Okay, listed. All right. So far, so good. Getting your credit report, annualcreditreport.com, totally free. Totally free. No charge. Okay. You can get all 3 reports if you want, or rotate them through for the year. Like I say, that's what we do. If you want us to do a credit review for you, if you want to open a business, you want us to do a credit review here, I'll have you pull the Experian report, either print it, save it as a PDF, and send me a copy, come in, and we'll go through it. I'll give you the exact idea of how to fix it the easiest way possible. Okay. We'll talk about fixing here in the next segment. Okay. And obviously save it as a PDF on your computer. Doesn't look like we have any questions at this point, unless anybody's got anything pressing. We are good. All right. So let's talk about how you're going to fix this devil. A lot of companies out there offer the ability to do credit repair. Okay. And they'll charge you 100, 200, 300, 400 to fix, you know, I'll help you fix it. Right. The only real person that can fix the credit report technically is you. It's you. Okay. Even if you're working with an agency, they're going to have you sign documents and forms for every single thing they're sending in. So much easier to get assistance and help from somebody who's going to walk you through the steps, show you what to do it for yourself, and only have to, you know, charge you whatever it costs for a stamp. Worst case scenario, a lot of stuff you can do online, especially disputing stuff. Okay. So let's identify quick fixes. What impacts your score? Length of time you had the card or the credit, how you're using credit cards. Again, that's the limit, right? If you have a 5,000 limit card and you owe $4,900 consistently, score will drop. Okay. So 30 to 50% of your credit card limit, you know, gives you the best opportunity for a high score. Okay. It's actually been said that if you have 0 owed on a card, and say the cards, let's say you have 2 $10,000 limit cards. One is at 0 balance, the other one's at $9,999. Okay. Technically, if you transferred the balance from that $9,000 card, took half of it and put it on the other card, so now you owe $5,000 a piece, your score will go up. You owe the same amount, but because of the scoring model, you see, there's ways you can actually work the system to your advantage. How are you using credit cards? What credit you have available? We just talked about that. And of course, the negative items. Late payments, collections, foreclosures, repossessions, bankruptcies, all those things. Harder to fix. Okay. Some cases not impossible, but they're harder to fix. Bankruptcies have to run their time. Normally they'll stay on a credit report for 10 years. It'll show that you filed bankruptcy. Okay. Obviously, your credit will improve after bankruptcy if you make your payments on time for new credit. A lot of people say, well, wait a minute, I won't be able to get credit after I file bankruptcy for 7 years. That's been the old thing, 7 years. Technically, you can get new credit as early as 2 years after bankruptcy if you've had a score. You know, let's say you kept your car and you made your car payments on time, even though you got rid of all your unsecured plastic credit cards in a bankruptcy, but you kept the car because you had to get to work, make some money, right? So you made the payments on time for the car. Guess what? That rebuilds your credit. Every time you make a payment, your credit score will go up. It took my brother, who filed bankruptcy, about 2.5 years to go from a 525 bankruptcy credit score to a 690. To 690. Obviously, he didn't borrow much. He went ahead and got a little credit card back about 2 years in, a year and 3/4 in. Capital One gave him a $200 starter card, they call it, reboot card. And sure enough, he kept his nose clean, made his payments, on time, whatever. Credit score came up to 690 in 2 years, so he could buy another car for his wife. So again, it's not a death knell. It's just it's a reboot. It is really a reboot. Easy fix, old doctor bill. Here's a good one. So you forgot it or you never got the bill. Okay, happened to me. This was back in the 80s. We moved from one city to the other and put a transfer in for our mail. And the dentist bill did not get to me at the new residence. Forgot about it completely with all the stuff going on. Get the kids in school, new jobs, move to a new city, and you just lose track. Okay. So I get this pink notice in the mail. That'll wake you up. If they're still sending paper out, it's really a pink notice still. I get the pink notice in the mail, and it says, $25 you owe the dentist, and we're going to send you to, court. We're going to do this, do that. So I called the dentist immediately. I explained to them what happened. Okay. I said, I'm really sorry. Here's the money. I'm sending it to you right now. Can you reverse the ding, And we've been customers of that dentist for like 10 years. So he said, yeah, no problem. I'll go ahead and remove it. There's no harm in asking if something needs to be corrected. You can't, it's not going to, it's free to ask them to take it off. They don't have to, they will not always do it, but I'll tell you, it's worth it if they do. Okay, pay it off immediately, ask for removal. It definitely is helpful. You're talking 20-point drop if you have one negative doctor bill. 20, 25 points. Meaningful. That's meaningful. Whoops. Late car payment, going from paychecks every 2 weeks to monthly. Again, there's a change in something you're doing. Either you've changed jobs, you've changed cities and jobs, now your paychecks or paydays are different than they were before, and your due dates now do not line up with your pay. Call it customer service, have them do a due date change. You can normally only do a due date change like once every year to 18 months. They're not going to have you let you do it every month or every, but if you have a due date change due to a payroll switch, don't forget, because they'll take it, if you're on automatic, for instance, they're going to take that money out on the 4th. You don't get paid till the 5th. Ouch. You may have a late fee. You may have a non-sufficient funds fee with your bank. It could be a real mess. So check your pay dates. When you get the new job, make sure the due dates of your car and credit cards are going to fit the new payment schedule, and ask them to move it. Okay, ask them to move the due date. That's doable. Again, unbalanced credit. I talked about that before. That's kind of the thing we talked about a few minutes ago. 9,500 outstanding on a 10,000 limit card. Your other cards are sitting at 0. If you're able to transfer those funds easily from this card to the 0 balance card and balance out that credit, your score can actually increase. Okay. It's just a way to play it right. That's all it is, right? All it is. Every advantage possible. Because credit scores and credit ratings, they affect your bottom line. right? They really do. I mean, it could be a 1%, 0.75% interest rate difference between a high score and the next one down. It may be a higher or lower number of amount of fees you're going to pay because you got this 20, 25, 50 point difference in your score. So it can be meaningful. It could be the difference between being able to rent or buy this house or not. So it's really because these are used in all sorts of things. Some jobs require credit reports, especially if you're working with finances, money, right? Edward Jones person that you're doing investing. Yeah. Renting a house, obviously. Okay. Getting life insurance. All sorts of people check credit reports. They'll affect a lot of your life, even if you don't borrow money. Okay. Too many old cards. I like calling this closing dead wood. My wife and I went through about 25 years ago, went through a self-read program to get rid of about, I don't know, 15, 18 credit cards between the two of us, and to eliminate $25,000 in credit card debt. We used what was called the focus or snowball plan, attacking one card at a time. Everybody else gets minimum payment, cut the card up, tell them to close it, get rid of it, pay off the one that you're trying to focus on, and go after the next one. Kind of a fun game. You need 4 pieces of credit, according to FICO, 4 live pieces of credit. So you could have a house loan, a car loan, a couple of credit cards. You could have a house loan, a car loan, student loan, and a credit card. Any 4 pieces that are active and solid, that's all you need for an 800 score. You don't need a dozen cards. The cards to get rid of, in my opinion, I mean, and I know Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman may have a little difference, but we're close. Those are the ones that make $100,000 a speech. I got to learn how to do that. Anyway, but I'm in agreement that, you know, store cards, like a Kohl's card, nothing against Kohl's, used to be the Macy's card was Macy's only, the Penny's card was Penny's only, right? Those cards are limited use, high interest rate, period. Period. Okay? 24, 25, 23% interest rates, and can only be used at Kohl's and Macy's and Penny's. Okay? Chevron, Shell, BP, all the oil company cards. High interest rates, mostly large oil companies, higher gas prices, and can only be used for the gas. Guess what? All these places take Visa, American Express, Discover, and most take obviously Visa, MasterCard. Okay, Visa, MasterCard. Those are the ones to keep. Multi-usage cards, lowest rate you can get. In the Reading area, one of the lowest interest rates on credit cards historically are the credit unions. We got a bunch of beauties in this area. Sierra Central, Golden Valley, Members First, great credit unions that have 12 to 15% interest rates on plastic. Dude, that'll save you a bundle, an absolute bundle. You won't believe it, okay? So getting rid of the old cards, tell them you don't want it anymore, cutting them up, put them in a shredder, send them a nice letter. I don't want your card anymore. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Legal, perfectly legal, doesn't affect your score at all. Remember, you need 4 pieces of live credit for the best score. Obviously, check for errors, incorrect addresses, employers, cards you didn't apply for. Errors are very, very important. When you pull the credit report, make sure they're yours. Okay, make sure they're yours. Doesn't take long for somebody to have a card in somebody. In fact, it happened to my wife and I. It's been about 10 or 15 years ago. January came, we pulled this credit report, Experian. Macy's card showed up on my wife's credit report, $500. Okay, I jumped to conclusions. I said, you took 20%, you fell for the 20% off at the cashier, didn't you? She goes, no, I didn't get a card. Well, there's one in your name here showing up on the report. So we look at it. We called Macy's first and said, hey, can you tell us where this thing was applied for? And we were up here in Redding. It was applied for in Fresno, California. Said, well, we don't know anybody in Fresno, and we don't definitely have a card from the Fresno Macy's. If we were going to have it, it'd be up here. So they looked into it, and the person that applied for the credit, their Social Security number, their numbers were switched. So let's say my wife's was 96 and his was 69. Whoever punched it in the computer did 96, matched my wife's name. See? So it was a typo, right? Her credit was good. Card went to the guy's name at his address. No one was the wiser till we pulled the report. So they went ahead and fixed it, changed the Social Security, whatever, we audited it back, it's gone. Even though the card was positive, you don't want the possibility of somebody else's card hurting your credit down the road. Okay, harder to fix are the biggies. Child support and arrears, IRS liens, back taxes, bankruptcies, and foreclosures. Child support, make arrangements as soon as possible. Get her done. Okay, start making payments. IRS, they have payment plans. We've used them. One year, my wife made way more money in real estate than we ever would have thought of. We got caught with our taxes in the hole. You know what I mean? April came and said, we're going to pay what? And sure enough, we called the IRS and said, okay, here you go. How much can you afford a month? Okay, that's the payment till it pays off in full. We won't do a tax lien. We won't get you bad credit. No problem. So remember, IRS will play. We'll play. All right. So, and again, going back to this one last time, really, when it gets to the difficult stuff, back taxes, child support, that kind of thing, bankruptcies, time will heal your score. Time. It's like my brother when he filed bankruptcy. It was 2010, right after the real estate bomb hit. A lot of people filed bankruptcy in 2009, 2010, lots. Okay. And so it plummeted away fast. As the time went on, 2 years, he went from a 525 to a 690. Time. It's like breaking your arm. Break your arm, you're not going to be ready tomorrow to go pitch or play basketball, right? You got to heal for 6 to 9 months, weeks, whatever it is. And then you won't be really perfect then either. Same thing with credit history, especially on these ones that aren't easily fixable. Okay. All right, so we learned how to pay off old bills, rebalance the credit card usage, fix errors, and set up payment plans with the federal government. Cool? Any questions at this point? Excuse me. We cooking? All right. Well, we kind of went through this thing. Again, we obtain and understand credit scores. We talked about how to get them. Obtain your credit reports, annualcreditreport.com. Connect with an advisor. We're going to give that to you on the last slide. And of course, start repairing your credit. You can do that immediately once we identify what's wrong. Okay. Contacting the different creditors is the easiest way to go about it. Make sure you have a plan of attack. Say you owed $500 on a collection to a doctor. Make sure they posted it to your insurance companies properly, and then set up a payment plan. All these places will take payment plans. Okay, they don't want to do these things to us if they can help it, and they want their money. So that's how you do it. So how do you connect with SBDC? Now, remember, as David said earlier, we are Shasta Trinity County SBDC called Shasta-Cascade, but There are SBDC offices everywhere you want to be in the United States and elsewhere. So you can find out about it by going on to Google and tracing it down. Our website's sbdcsc.org. You sign up for one-on-one advising where you actually come in and meet with us. How about that? Pretty cool deal. We can do it by phone. We can do it by Zoom. We can do it at the office downtown Reading. Okay, pretty simple. And make sure to check our calendar. We are doing in-persons again. Classes, kind of fun. We hadn't done it for over 2 years. Now we're doing them live. We'll have a few more done this month, matter of fact.
Let me interrupt you real quick, Joe, if that's okay.
Yes, Dave, you got it.
I just put a link to a survey in the chat. We'd appreciate it if you'd click on that. We'll also send you the link in an email, but if you could click on that, tell us how we did. If you have any ideas or any recommendations for other topics that you might want to see us cover, please put those in that survey. We'd appreciate it. We have thick skin. You can tell us how much, I sucked and how great Joe was. That's absolutely fine. And we appreciate you doing that. So
wonderful. And as we mentioned, we're on Facebook. We tweet. We're on LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel is fabulous. We have over 100 videos. We have something called NorCal Minutes, which are quick little snippets of under 2-minute quick videos on topics that may interest you. A lot of stuff during the COVID crisis, of course, but these other classes like this one being taped today is on there. How to start a business class in Shasta County. I think I'm on there about 5 times on that. So a lot of times you just go there in the evening and as you're watching other YouTube stuff, turn us on. How about that? And go ahead and like us on there as well so that we can continue to have our YouTube channel. In fact, this is the old slide. I just recognized that, David. We have our old YouTube channel number there. How about that? We actually got enough followers. We got a new name.
You can, of course, you can get the YouTube channel on from the website, and actually that old one there still works. So when you get the deck, you'll be able to click on that.
There you go.
All right.
Any final questions? Here we go. Oh, we do have one that came up. Angela, thank you. If there is an old debt, 12 years, that a third party is trying to collect, what are the specifications of that? Yeah, what they've done, this is an old trick of the old collection agencies. What they've done is they'll sell them collection agency to collection agency, and it continues to then reset the calendar. So that's why it's 12 years old, showing up as a collection for a bill that you might have had at like AT&T when you were in college. The best thing to do is to go track it back as best you can as to where it's officially started. Okay, and again, have them prove that the balance is still viable. You can also ask them if they'll take less. You can technically go I call it the let's make a deal portion of this thing. Where you'll say, gee whiz, I got this old cell phone bill or this old TV, satellite dish bills. They're historically a problem. Okay. Old phone bills, historically a problem. My daughter in college went through one of those. Well, my roommate was supposed to pay it, but my name's on it. Well, yeah, there you go. So what you do is you can contact them and say, hey, tell you what, I don't have $500. If I was to give you money today, how much would you take and call it even? Okay. A lot of times these companies have paid 50% on the dollar or less. So if you're owed $500, they may have paid $200, $250. for that debt and try to collect the 500. There's their profit, right? So you can go in and say, gee whiz, I really don't have all the money today, but I can give you some money. What would you take to call us even and get this out of here? And they'll say $300, right? You owe 5. That's a win, right? You can give them the 300, they'll wipe it out, credit score goes up. They probably won't remove the collection. They might. I had one client do that was starting a business. And what she did was there was a local agency here in town, I think Sierra Receivables, a nice local collection group here. A lot of the doctors use them here. And she had doctor dentist bills, about $100 total, 20, 15, 25. There was 4 of them or something, about $100. I said, go over there and, kind of really be sad and tell them you're really sorry, that you didn't pay these things. I'm trying to open a business. Here's the money. Could you take them off the report, please, so I can get a loan for the business? Can't hurt to ask. That's what I told her. Sure enough, she called me back after doing it and says, Joe, guess what? They did it. They pulled them. I said, see, it's worth asking. Because if they pulled them off the report when you pay them, score dramatically jumps. Dramatically. She went from like a 550 to a 650 in a matter of about a month, after it reported. So there you go. Okay.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah.
If there hasn't been a judgment against you in that time for that debt, then the statute of limitations may have passed. In California, debt's only good for 4 years unless you've had a judgment, a court judgment on that debt. Now, there are some other things that could have happened depending on the agreement you made with the debt, but you might want to look to see if the debt's even legitimate.
That's very true. And you can do disputes online at the various agencies' websites. You can dispute the debt right on their website. Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Used to be you had to write a letter and certified, and a stack of Bibles, notarized, whatever. Now it's real simplified. You go on the website and dispute the item right there, and then they got to get back to you with an answer. 30 days tops. 30 days tops. That's the law. So yes, you can dispute items. You can definitely dispute items. Okay. Any other last minute questions? I think we all did good, didn't we? I want to thank you for joining us today. Thanks, David, for being a wonderful moderator as usual. And we're going to be sending you a copy of the deck. We're going to please have you sign the little survey and answer the questions on the survey there. It's Survey Monkey. We'll resend that to you as well in an email. And again, a copy of the slide deck. And if you're not a client already, please sign up. We got a lot of people that can help you in your small business. Tons of people. HR, QuickBooks, marketing, you name it. We probably have somebody that's able to talk to you, and we're already paying forward our tax dollars. Might as well use us, right? One of those positive things that the tax dollars pay for. So, David, any last thoughts?
I think we're there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate it. I'm going to turn off the recording. I think we're done.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody. Hope to see you soon.